We have some wild breaking news to discuss today as the team is speaking out on their brutal loss against the Boston Bruins and their future. And Mitch Marner made some wild comments, potentially committing to the Leafs long term. So, to break that down in this episode, as well as some other comments from other players and even Brad Treliving. So, we're going to break all that down in this episode. But before we do, quick reminder, hit the subscribe button. We are on the road to 9,000 and we're approaching it very fast. If you're a part of that 80% who are not subscribed and you're enjoying the daily content, make sure to hit that button. And to be quite honest, you're going to want to hit the subscribe button if you want to be up to date with the Leafs, because we're going to have tons of videos coming for you guys today, tomorrow, over the next few weeks. So stay tuned for that. And make sure you can turn the notifications on as well, because we're going to be spamming uploads. But Darius, a lot to discuss today. Sheldon Keefe is speaking out. We have players speaking out. We have even some reports from Elliotte Friedman. But we'll start with this from Elliotte Friedman. And he was on his podcast, and he kind of had some things to say about Mitch Marner. We'll have another full video covering everything. But he basically said that the Leafs can kind of force the situation and say, look, guys, this is what we're going to do. You can decide to work with us now or to make your decision later. And he kind of mentions potentially looking to extend Mitch Marner. Look, we're not offering you what you want, maybe paying him a bit less. And here's the big kind of bombshell, Darius, that just dropped literally just then, about an hour or so ago, saying Mitch Marner says it's his goal to be with the Leafs long term. He's eligible to sign an extension on July 1st. And he said, quote, it's the same crappy pain, to be honest. Now, this was pretty wild because there's been some speculation about whether or not Mitch Marner even wants to be a Leaf long term. That has been shut down. He commits to the Leafs long term here. Now the question going forward will be, will the Leafs be willing to give him the money that he wants? And we might make more videos on it in the future, but that's going to be the huge question mark here, because he's looking for a lot of money, and unless he wants a random pay cut, it doesn't look likely that he's going to be a Leaf long term.
Yeah, lots of news today for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it being locker cleanout day. It should have been game one of the second round, but it is locker cleanout day. And in terms of Mitch Marner, yes, he did say that he wants to commit long term, and obviously that would be the goal. And we're going to get into some more of the other things he said too, as well as Tavares. But I thought it was interesting that Friedman did mention this morning, and we'll have more on this in another video too, that he said that Marner could possibly be open to working with the Leafs if the Leafs decide to make a move in giving them a couple teams to be able to move on from his contract, or maybe even ride it out next year. I'm starting to believe through some of these quotes and the fact that he came out this morning and said the goal is to stay here, which of course he's going to say. He's not going to come out flat out and say, I want to leave in front of the media on locker cleanout day. But I just think it's interesting that that may be an option now that has opened up, so that they may be able to move on from him, and also that they may sit on it for another year. I think that was the most interesting thing when you look through all the quotes going out today. If you read between the lines, it sounds like because of the way and the structure of everything is set up, the fact that they didn't move on last summer has set them up now where they might have to go into next season with the same roster. This might actually happen next year, and it's starting to scare me a little bit that they may end up going into next year with the same roster. Things around the team might change. President, and we'll have lots of videos on all that, president, coach. But in terms of like Mitch Marner in the core four, core five, it could end up staying the same, especially with a quote like this, that he's committed to staying long term. They're going to, I don't know what that number is going to look like. A little bit of a mess going on here, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, again, we'll probably cover it later, but like Marner seems to want to stay a Toronto Maple Leaf. The Leafs, it is now up to them whether they think they want to move on. And reading between the lines, that's still kind of up in the air. So as of right now, it's really, I mean, obviously they could potentially explore moving Mitch Marner. Maybe Mitch Marner would be willing to do that. But there's also the time that maybe might get to a point where maybe they just keep him and the core four stays intact. That's probably less likely, but it's a bit more likely than it was 24 hours ago at least. But we won't really know for a while. But there's some other comments, and this is what he had to say on his desire to stay in Toronto. He said, that'd be the goal. I've expressed my love for this place, this city. I've grown up here. We'll start thinking about that now and trying to figure something out. So again, they could sit on it a little bit, but I think we'll have some sort of resolution over the next month or so, depending regarding this. Obviously, at least if he's going to be extended. Trades makes it a bit more difficult. They might wait until obviously the cup is over and things like that. But yeah, a trade could be likely. Like, there's a lot of moving parts, but the biggest thing to take away from this, he wants to be a Leaf long term, which makes the Leafs decision. I mean, you could arguably say it makes it easier. It could also be, a little bit harder now, because do they want to pay? And I highly doubt Mitch Marner is going to be willing to give a pay cut to the Toronto Maple Leafs, despite being here for, ever.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. In the next month, they're going to have the conversation. What does an extension look like? And Mitch Marner's not going to want to get paid less than some of the guys like Austin Matthews and William Nylander. And just the dynamic of the team and the fact that I don't understand what we're still doing here with this roster, personally. they're going to probably have to move on. The conversation is going to be, what does an extension look like? And then from there, they will move into, hey, can you move your or waive your no move clause so we can move on here? And they probably won't win the trade. But like we talked about in the past, the cap space is going to be the most important thing in this whole ordeal. So they're going to have to figure that out, and pretty promptly. Like you said, it'll probably be over the next month or two, maybe heading into free agency, because he isn't eligible for an extension this July 1st. They can start getting that in the motion. So even if it's like a sign and trade or something, they can get really creative with some things here. But we're just going to have to wait and see exactly what's going to happen. And I don't even think the Leafs know what they're going to do, because a lot is up in the air this week. Like, we don't even know what's going to happen Thursday with management talking. They said management. They didn't even name names. So it's going to be very interesting. I don't even think they know what they're going to do. But I think everyone knows what needs to happen, and that's change. So we'll see. It's encouraging that he wants to stay here. Obviously, there's no sour grapes or anything, because there were rumors that he did want to move on. He made it clear this morning he wants to stay. But I'm just not sure that's good for the team.
Yeah, and it might make it easier to move him if he's going to be willing to cooperate. But let's get into some of the other comments, just from a different player. And again, this is the last one from Marner. It means the world to me. We're looked upon as gods, and the concept of
wouldn't have answered it that way.
Yeah, it's interesting as a possible contract extension. But let's move on now to some other things here, with specifically John Tavares. So he tells reporters at the Leafs locker cleanout that the message delivered by GM Brad Treliving to players today was that they have to push forward and be better. Quote, the margins are very small and very slim. And these are comments directly from John Tavares, but from Brad Treliving directly on Thursday. But this is, Brad Treliving said this, so it's technically Brad Treliving's comments that are echoed by John Tavares, who's the captain of the team, the veteran, and all this. What are your thoughts on this comment? It's a bit surprising to me that he kind of said what Brad Treliving, aired out what Brad Treliving said, but they do have to push forward and be better. The push forward part's a little bit scary, because for some reason when I hear push forward, it means that there might be a lack of change. Now, that's not necessarily true and probably isn't going to be true, but I don't know. It's not a weird comment necessarily. A little bit surprising to me that he said, though, what Brad said. But I mean, it's not bad, I guess. It's just not exactly what I want to hear personally.
Yeah, it's a little surprising, a little scary. Like, personally, like you're saying, it is, because it does lend to the fact that maybe there is no change coming. But again, a lot of the group is probably going to be back next year. So he is just relaying that message to the group. And that is what has to happen. When they come back next year, whoever is back, you have to push through these things. So I do like the message. And of course, you don't want to give up or anything like that. And I believe Treliving will probably be here next year. But it's just a little surprising, a little shocking. I'm not sure if I wanted to hear that necessarily as the first thing we heard this morning, to just continue to push through, because that's exactly what we've been doing. And listen, again, Tavares might not even be captain. Another topic for another video next year. There's a lot of things that have to happen, I think, for the success of this team. And just to hear that specific phrase is a little worrying, because you want change. And you look all the way at the top, Shanahan, it doesn't seem like he wants to move on from a lot of these guys. He wants to see it through. And he's brought up examples like Hall of Famers go through a lot of these things and then they end up breaking through, winning cups. I feel like you're running out of time. You're running out of time very quickly, and they're not making any strides. You're in the same position almost every season, and the collapses are almost the exact same every single time. So not what I wanted to wake up to as the first thing I heard from the Leafs this morning, but still, I do like the positive mindset, and I can appreciate it.
Yeah, interesting. And it'll be interesting to cover for the rest of, really the offseason, but especially the rest of the day here. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on this, and we're going to have lots of videos coming out for you over the next even few hours, so stay tuned for all that, and thank you guys for watching. We'll see you very soon.